computer. Hari Om and Namaste, and welcome to this session, another session from the Center of Excellence for Meditation. My name is Yashoda, and today I have the honor to welcome Sergio. And Sergio and we met in a course about healing, compassion key. But Sergio, warm welcome to you. Do you want to introduce yourself to the audience with 2 or 3 sentences?
Yes, hello Yashoda, and hello to all of us who are watching this right now. My name is Sergio. I am a bunch of loving awareness inside this human who was born in Italy some years ago. And I work as a healer. I am interested and passionate about everything that concerns healing. And that's because my body had some bad illnesses and I managed to heal them myself with meditation and psychedelics. And also everything concerning other areas of life, like relationships and like business, because healing is a 360-degree process. That's how I see it, at least.
Yeah, I am very much with you, because ultimately, I mean, my breadwinning job for 30 years almost was like being a photographer. But I was always interested also in healing, because it is the highest modality. And at the end, healing also means wholeness. And wholeness means realizing your highest self. So healing is a very special, interesting topic. I totally understand your choice. So now that we're talking for the Center of Excellence for Meditation, could you give us like a sneak preview or introspection into your path to meditation? How did you get started? How did it come into your life?
Yeah, so my first contact with meditation happened when I was 17. I'm 27 now. And a guy who used to travel to Tibet and be with Tibetan monks was living around near my house. And I met him and I went to talk to him and I had some sessions with him. And he taught me these Tibetan meditations, which I did for a while. Then I forgot about them because they were a bit too hardcore for me. That's also where I learned pranayama for the first time. Then I forgot completely about it, about all of that, for a few years as I went to university. Then, as I got into personal development, in the beginning, I got into personal development because I wanted to improve my skills and my ability with women back then. And then it turns out meditation is useful for that, because a thing that a woman values a lot is a man's presence. And so I read the book, The Power of Now, which is all about being present and recognizing presence, right? And then I realized, oh, okay, the guy is talking about enlightenment. That's what I want. That's the thing that I want, right? It just hit me. And so I started meditating with being in presence and so on. Then I started doing some self-inquiry as well. And then I found a book, an amazing book called Letting Go by Dr. David Hawkins.
Super.
I remember I was in China when I was reading the book.
Yeah.
And in the book, he outlines a very simple process to dissolve any negative energy that comes up, which also implies healing the body and the mind as you do that. So it's like catching all the pigeons with one stone, okay? So all the birds with one stone. And so I was like, okay, amazing, because I love processes that are simple and all-encompassing. Actually, back then in China, I was learning this Chinese meditation from a guy who was a teacher, but it was so complicated. There's so many different steps and visualizations, and I just didn't like it. While the one in the book said, okay, just focus on where it hurts the most and stay on it until it's gone. Beautiful, I like it. And in doing so, the body becomes free of this stuck energy. So the mind does, and so the energy body does, and everything improves accordingly. And that happened it happened in 2019. No, in the end of 2018. And I had been doing that meditation almost obsessively every single day, sometimes even for 5 hours a day, because I have it as a priority. Like, my priority is to be healed, which means to be as I am supposed to be. Like, healing is the process of putting things back together as they are supposed to be. Okay, like existence likes to twist itself in ways that seem damaging and negative. Healing is the process of streamlining it once again. And I want to be streamlined as a human being. I want my life to flow. And so I realized the more I did the process, the better the rest of my life would become. And so it became my priority to do so. 1 year ago, with this process, I also managed to heal an incurable illness I had. For like 26 years of my life, I couldn't breathe through my nose. I had what is called turbinates hypertrophy, like my turbinates, which are like sponges inside the nose that control how much air gets in, they would get inflated all the time. I lived my life like having a cold all the time. And if I got a cold, it would be like twice as painful. It would be like a cold on top of a cold. And with this process, I managed to heal my nose in a few months after I realized it was my priority. So that's my experience. That is the main process I've been following. I also have other ones, but that's the main one that I still teach and I advocate and I love.
There was already a very funny contradiction in what you said, which I know very well. I healed myself from an incurable disease.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. I don't think we have to go into
but this is interesting because curing and healing are they have two different meanings. Like curing means curing the symptom, which is the Western approach we have, which often works and often doesn't. Healing means solving the issue at the root. So many things can be incurable for Western medicine, but they can be healable because if you go at the root, the symptoms disappear.
Whereas I would say curing is even different because there's a difference between numbing the symptoms and curing the symptoms, or but yeah, it's not our topic. Other people with badges and signs talk about these things and label them as incurable and curable or whatever, and you will be at your mercy if you don't find your way home to your own capacities in a limited range. I'm not intending to go into this chapter.
No, absolutely.
So when you picked up meditation, you said like you did it like quite intensely, like 5 hours. What does your daily, like today, what does your meditation practice, your sadhana look like?
Okay, so I try to be as smart as possible about it without forcing myself and having a structure, but also being intuitive about how much time I dedicate to the practice and all the other things I do. So in the beginning, to catch the habit of meditation, I started with doing it 5 minutes a day, because so the mind gets adjusted to that. You get to the point where after you do it for 5 minutes a day, your mind asks for it. So you don't have to force yourself. By inertia, you start wanting to meditate for 10 minutes. Okay. And then I just do 10 minutes a day for I don't know how many months, and then it becomes 20 minutes and then 30. I do it in the morning. Like I start in the morning every time as soon as I get out of the toilet, I have my meditation pillow on the floor. So everything is very well ready for me to just sit down on it, cross-legged, and stay with whatever is coming up. The period in which I was doing it for 5 hours a day was when I decided I wanted to heal my nose. So I haven't done it for 5 hours a day all the time. That was like some 6 months period in which my priority in life was to heal my nose. Like I wouldn't do anything else but heal the nose. So I would just stop meditating when I was too tired to keep going. But usually I do an hour, sometimes 2 in the morning, and an hour in the night before going to sleep. But it also depends a lot on what comes up. So there are days in which I wake up and maybe I had a nightmare or something happened in my dreams. And so my body still remembers that, like the unconscious wants me to see something. And so I wake up with pain in the chest, or there is something heavy somewhere that requires my attention. It requires my focus on it. Okay, it's a message I'm supposed to receive. So I stay with it as long as possible until it's gone, right? Other days I wake up and I have other things to do. So I just meditate for 5 or 10 minutes and it's fine. And then I go about my day.
I like very much this sort of like flexible approach, which has some discipline, but also has this softness or the flexibility to adjust or adapt to what is actually happening right now in your life. Because I wasted a tremendous amount of time with like a real tough discipline, and that has repercussions on your practice, on your life, and at least for me, real tough discipline did not work. I'm personally not the character for it, and I also need more like something which has the flexibility or the fluidity to go into my own whatever is happening every day. And I think this is a great hint and a great tip for everybody practicing to to incorporate your existence and your being into your practice, and not like put it over you and feel maybe sometimes suffocated by it, or not running the risk to feel like the practice is becoming too much, or you don't like it, you build resistance or anything with it. So, and you already said, sorry, you were able to heal yourself with the practice. Like how would you describe, did the meditation practice translate into your life? Like what did you notice about that?
So yes, many things happen. So, well, of course, we can start with the body. Like physically, what happens in the body is that the body feels lighter. Inside of us, we have a bunch of traumas that are stored from our childhood, and some say even from past lives and other ancestral experiences we may have had. Some traumas are inherited from our parents as they are, and our body remembers all of them.
Yeah.
In fact, during my meditation, it's like after a while, I started seeing like a net of clusters of pain, all connected, stored in my energy body or in my nervous system. I don't know. Also, here's another thing. I don't know anything. Like I haven't studied this. I'm only empirically looking at what is happening inside me. So I could see this net of pains, right? There was, for example, for the nose, there was a cluster here in the nostril, and then which would be connected to the shoulder, which was connected to the chest, which was connected to the right testicle, which was connected to the foot, and so on. And it was like a bunch of pieces, right? And as I would focus on each of them and releasing them, it would be more pleasant to be in my body because there is less pain.
Yeah, less tension. Yeah.
The reason why it's so difficult to be present is that being in the body is unpleasant because it's full of pain. Once you remove the pain by processing it, not by running away, it becomes easier and natural to stay in the body because you want to be in the body because it's more enjoyable, as it is supposed to be. So that is one thing that changes. Well, of course, now I can breathe. So that's an important thing that changed.
Yeah.
My relationship with others, the thing that actually changes is what we can call the vibe, the energy that you have and that you give to others. Like all of us, this is how David Hawkins explains it, and I agree. We all have a range of frequency that we can vibrate at as beings. Okay, depending on the energies that are stuck in our consciousness, we vibrate higher or lower. So if we have a lot of anger inside, or a lot of depression, or a lot of anxiety or guilt, our vibration is relatively low. It's being pulled down by this low vibration energy. So we have love inside as well, which is a higher frequency, but it's like clouded, it's like pulled back, it's pulled down by these lower energies. If you remove these weights, you remove these lower energies, you naturally find yourself vibrating higher, meaning people react differently to you. You are less needy, you are less attached to things, you can receive more easily and faster. So in my life, many more synchronicities started to happen, like blatant, obvious assists from the universe started to happen as soon as I started doing this process. Now, everything is a synchronicity in life, but if you raise your vibration, they become more blatant and more helpful to you. More positive events stuck one on top of each other. And I had insane one happening to me for the last years. So that's another thing that changes. I became more intuitive as well. Like my mind let go of control much more. Once again, why does the mind control? Because there is pain. The mind doesn't want you to experience the pain. It wants to protect you. If you let go of the pain, the mind doesn't have anything to protect you from anymore. So it can let go of control. And so it's easier to receive information from the intuition. I remember there was a period during my practice where just so much energy was moving from my right brain hemisphere. I remember it was maybe for a couple of months, every time I would sit down and do the practice, there would be energies moving in the right part of my body and also the right hemisphere of my brain. And I just started getting more intuitive with things. So many things unblock. Essentially, you become closer and closer to your true nature.
Yeah.
Which is this high, fantastic being that is all positive and light and so on and so forth. And it's a surprise as well. You may find out you have powers or you have incredible talents that you didn't know you had because they were blocked by these lower energies.
It's for me, I can very much make sense of what you say. For me also, if you start or go back to your meditation practice, it is like signaling, bless you, it's like signaling to the universe, I'm ready to grow. And you get an uplift from this this openness, and also you are strengthening your, as I call it, like your vertical connection, which releases the tension in your horizontal connections. With vertical, I mean something higher, like a higher power, and the vertical connections are other living beings, or from which we make ourselves dependent, because we think this is our own source, only source of feeding. But the more you get fed from above, the more you become independent from what's happening with other people in your interaction, and you can more like truly live your true essence, which is undisturbed, because the disturbance comes from the fear, and all the feelings which can get evoked in you, and those, most of them, probably all of them, they build our identity, but they are trauma caused, as you said. They come from past lives, they come from our personal lineage, they come from this life, from anywhere, and shedding them is an act of liberation. And as the yogis, the Vedantins, as they all say, you cannot achieve the achieved. Like you only can drop the wheels in front of your eyes.
Exactly.
And you're shedding, coming closer to your true nature, and it's a blissful experience. Every step of it is a joyful experience compared to where you've been before. But like I totally like your approach. Like the most simplistic thing to me is the most genius thing, because then you can make sure you do it. Like if it's too much detail, too much to keep in your head, it's hard to you got to really train with a teacher and take a couple of years so that it becomes your second nature. Otherwise, it's very unrealistic to keep this practice for a difficult practice for a long time. It's just not happening in our modern lives. But this is not where you stopped. Like you kept on venturing out, and I would also be very interested in your experiences. Mine are some decades ago, in taking psychedelics, and what brought you there? Like, which longing was it that you said, okay, I want to sort of look through the keyhole and take whatever substance, mushroom, I don't know what, and I want to see it before I've accumulated the sadhana, the hours of spiritual practice, that I have full entrance into this world. Like, what led you to venturing out into psychedelics?
So the correct answer is life. It just became a thing for me to do in the situation in which I was. So psychedelic means, it comes from ancient Greek, and it means that which unveils the soul. So psyche means soul in ancient Greek, and the loss is to unveil. So psychedelics are all those substances that have the quality of showing you your core nature, and each of them does it in a different way. I've taken pretty much all the most famous one. I've taken many times. We'll go more in details later in what I did. How I got there? Well, life brought me there. Life brought me there. In the period in which I was doing meditation at home, and also I was meeting girls because I wanted to improve with them, a flatmate of mine told me and a friend of mine we should have done ayahuasca. We would have enjoyed it. And so we said, yeah, okay, we should do it. And then we completely forgot about it. Then 1 year after, this was in Barcelona, when I came back from China, actually. So after doing a bunch of meditation practices, we went to a retreat in Barcelona. We did ayahuasca. I enjoyed it so much. I got so much out of it that I wanted to do it again. And so I kept coming back for 3 months. And then every time it would be more and more intense and more powerful, to the point where I was like, wow, I'm really getting everything out of this. And in combining it with the practice, I would also have very powerful results. We can say very powerful experiences. And then I got offered to work for this organization that would organize retreats with ayahuasca. And so I went to live in Milan, in their house. And so when you live in the house where they do ayahuasca retreats, of course, you happen to do it very often. It's very natural. It's very easy. And you deal with people who have taken it many times. So there is a lot of experience going on. There were people also who were very experienced meditators. Like I met two former sannyasins, so two former devotees of Osho, for those of you who know him. So it was a very integrative experience as well. It wasn't just doing psychedelics. Yet doing them often was super important for me. So when you say with psychedelics, I went to look through the keyhole, right? Now with psychedelics, it's more like you slam the door. Like you kick the door, you break everything apart, and you get shown where you can get with your consciousness. Now, one thing is to be shown, and another thing is to stay there. What happens with psychedelics is that many people, they have, maybe they even, it's rare still, but some maybe even get awakening experiences, and then they think they are awakened, but they are not able to sustain that vibration, exactly because those weights are still dragging them down.
Yeah.
And that can feed the spiritual ego that now thinks he got enlightened, while actually no, not yet, at least. So I would say psychedelics, like meditation, like any other tool, are supposed to be a tool. You want to be wise when using them. So take everything good that comes from them, but don't build a story from the experiences you have. And remember that what you see and what you can experience through psychedelics, you are also supposed to reach it without.
Yeah, it's an inspiration, or this is at least how I remember it. My entire yogic practice with real full sadhana over decades and studies and everything. I always knew that I'm aiming for something which is really there, or let's say, which is perceivable via my mind. It's not that somebody has to tell me, yeah, do it, it will be great. I knew it, and it came, and I took the example of peeking through a keyhole, because like a little kid, if you look into, where the Christmas tree is, and you look through it, you think, I'm there, the presents are coming and everything.
Okay.
But then after a while, you realize, oh no, I'm outside. I don't really live there. I've seen this, but seeing it feeds you some inner certainty within you that our 5 or 6 sensory perception, in a way, is muted compared to what is there. It's muted on, I don't know what kind of level, probably quite small, and the mute is taken away, and then I don't even know if you see the full picture, but what you then see is like X times percentage. It's more than 10x more. It's a lot more. So what were your insights like? If you could sort of boil it down and describe it.
So I started having a bunch of awakenings right from the first sessions I had with Bufalvarius, which is a 5-MeO-DMT, a very powerful entheogen, very powerful psychedelic, and also ayahuasca. So on Bufalvarius, the first time I did it, Bufalvarius is like crystals that you put in a crack pipe and you smoke them. You inhale them. You don't smoke them necessarily. So you inhale this white smoke, and it goes in your lungs, and then in a bunch of seconds, you are blasted in the highest human experience you can have. Okay, like the highest levels of connection with everything you can have. Of course, every time is different, and it goes deeper the more you do it, because there is infinite degrees of realization that you can have. So there is infinite degrees of realization, and also infinite kinds of realizations you can have. So enlightenment is not just one single experience. Okay, it can be many different things, and each of the things you experience, each of the awakenings you can have, you can experience them at different degrees of depth. Okay, easy example. So you can awaken to the existence of love, or you can awaken to the fact that you are, to the I am reality. Okay, this is two different things. You don't experience them necessarily together. You can, but not necessarily. You can have one without the other. Okay. And this is also what you see in different traditions, like in Christianity, at least in the traditional way it's explained, they talk a lot about love, but they have no idea about metaphysics. In Buddhism, they have very clear explanations of what reality is and how it's made. Same with the Hindus, okay? The Vedas and so on. They talk about love, but less in a different way. They don't stress it as much as the Christians do, okay? So in my case, the first time I smoked Bufol Varius, I had the thing I was really looking for in the period, which was an ego death, and it felt exactly like dying. I had this, I was laying down with my eyes closed, my hands open, and I could feel the sensation of like life leaving my body, starting from the limbs, and then getting to the heart. And I felt like I was dying. Like I felt I was having the experience of dying. I was even screaming, "I don't want to die! I don't want to die! I don't want to..." I was, it was very real, and I could also feel like something warm coming out of my hands. And I was lucid. Like when you do these experiences, you don't lose consciousness. Actually, I was very, very sharp. And so I would check out my hands. I would see like, what is happening here? Like, am I losing blood or something? Nothing was happening, but I was feeling this warm liquid coming out. And so I have this that experience, and then a huge scream comes out of me, a very primal, very profound scream comes out. And when I let it out, I notice the entirety of existence, the entirety of my life experience vibrating with the scream. And then I open my eyes, and I am connected to everything. I'm like, oh, okay, so this is the thing they're talking about in the books. Yet, there was a sense of melancholy, a sense of negativity. I can't describe it yet. Like it wasn't complete. I wasn't blissful as I felt I could have been yet. But of course, it was amazing. And then touching everything felt like touching it for the first time. I remember I would touch the grass on the ground, and it felt like I never touched grass before. I could feel like it was a new experience for me to touch grass. And then we went to eat food. And eating, it felt like I was eating for the first time. I could experience food in such a way that it was so interesting. It was like it's a new thing, which is how life is supposed to be lived, because every single moment is different from the previous one. There is no such thing as two different moments. Even if you eat the same dish every day, it's always different, actually.
But it would overstimulate your nervous system if you would regard every experience as a total new one. You wouldn't get any, not really far in one single day.
Well, depends.
So the present.
Yeah. So when you are in that level of presence, it's true that you eat the pasta and it's always pasta, right? But the experience of doing it, even every single chew you make, is a new thing. Yeah, it's very weird to explain. It's like you come back to this origin of your experience. Then of course, with Bufol Varius, like after you come down, you go back to being normal. But of course, life changes after that. After you have one of these experiences, of course, your conception of the world changes. Yeah. Then 1 month after, I remember I went back to do more ayahuasca. And on the second night, the first night was very strong, was very hard. I had a personal intense experience exactly that day, so it was a purging night, we can say. Then the night after, I remember I drank ayahuasca very easily. Like the taste of ayahuasca is not the best, in my opinion at least. But that night it went down so easily. I took the booster dose as well. It went down so easily. And at some point I felt like I wanted to stretch. I wanted to move around. I started doing it, and then I look out of the window, and there is a plant. And this plant has a strange shape, like the leaves are shaped in such a way that to me it looks like a face that is screaming, like this. Okay? And I get the idea, I get a scream. And like the plant is telling me to scream. I'm like, that's nonsense, right? Like, what? Are you sure? And the plant was like, yes. So I do it. The same scream from 1 month before comes out of me. It's a scream that comes from the bottom of my spine. It doesn't come from my lungs. It comes from the entirety of my being. Okay. I scream that, and then I realize that I am. Like I look around and I realize I am not Sergio, who has been doing the thing he has been doing in Barcelona and so on and so forth. I am something. I'm not exactly sure what I am, but I'm definitely not that guy. And I happen to be inside this body having this so-called human experience. I actually have no clue what I'm doing here. I have no clue how I ended up here. that's what I call an awakening experience, properly said, because you awaken, like it felt like really awakening from a dream. I was dreaming that there was this Sergio guy, but actually no. I'm not sure what I am, but that's not what I am. Okay. And then a few months after, I come back, like I go to Milan, and I have a very intense retreat in which I have 3 of these awakenings, one on top of each other. Each of them is a bit different, but they're also kind of the same. And I remember on one day, I am like people tell me that I am luminous. I am emanating this sort of light somehow. And I felt everything was flowing so well. Everything was so perfect. Like I could feel like my feet moving by themselves on the ground. I could feel like I was appreciating everything, but also not getting stuck anywhere with my mind or my awareness or nothing. I would bring peace everywhere I would go. In normal conversations, I would go there and say silly things like there was a guy complaining about something. I go there and I say, yeah, but that's how it is. And he's like, oh, right, that's how it is. Thank you, Sergio. You're so wise. I was like, my pleasure. And then I go somewhere else and I say some other wise stuff somewhere else. And like the experience of life was so intense. It was so beautiful back then. And I was like, oh, okay, so that's also what they're talking about in the books. And then in the days after, of course, there is like I hoped I didn't lose that, but then there was a calm down, right? And I was also wondering, I am God, right? Like that's my nature. That's what I am. I am God, yet my nose doesn't breathe. What's up? What's up here? Why? I am God, but why am I not a multi-millionaire, super accomplished person just on a whim, right? It was confusing as well. You know, it was very interesting question, was very interesting contemplation topic, but also confusing and frustrating in a sense, you know, for the human that was having the experience. And that's why I understood, like, this is an inspiration for me. Like, this is where I can get to, but it's not enough to do psychedelics. Like, there has to be a constant work of 0.1% increase per day to get there properly.
Yeah, just when you were saying this is probably really why you build it in a spiritual way, because like we all, you know, all these values from the outside world, they go into our brains, and then ask 10 people and they all will say, I want money and car and wife or husband or whatever. It's all the same thing. And it's because we're all swimming in the same soup. And I think the real sadhana practice, without any substances, but just you and your practice, it takes time until you go through all these values, decode them for what they mean to you or not, and sort of carve out, still refined by this existence, but carve out what is of importance for you. And that's probably why it takes some time, because otherwise, yeah, that's how did you solve it? Like you're living
well,
it's not real.
What was important for me specifically was also not just getting the results, but understanding exactly the why of everything. Like why, even if I in theory I am everything and I can everything, I cannot unblock my nose. I realized like I could, just by wanting it, I could unblock my nose. But then I couldn't do it always. Then I have another illness, like my feet sweat for apparently no reason. That's because I was born dead. Like this guy was born dead, like suffocated from the umbilical cord of my mother. So my body remembers the trauma and so on and so forth. And I was like in a rush somehow as well. And I wanted to understand, like one of my deepest desires is to really know from direct experience what is the relationship between consciousness and manifested form, and why exactly everything manifests the way it does from consciousness. So it was like also this research interest I had back then, together with wanting to solve my everyday problems. Another thing was, for example, I am God. That yesterday I was bringing peace with speaking 2 words to people, and then 1 week after I would get angry for random reasons. I was like, why? What is going on? How is it possible? How is it possible that 2 weeks ago it was like this, and now I'm still falling into these old patterns, right? So the answer I had already, because I had read the Letting Go book, and so I knew the work to do is to just release as much negative energy as possible. And then naturally, I will find myself getting there, which I believe is happening. I have a few ways to check. What is important, I would say, when you do this kind of work is to have strong, very solid reference points that you can use to check whether you're doing the work correctly or not. So you don't get self-deluded, you don't get lost. Okay.
What would these reference points look like? Like what?
For example, for me, for me, it's the sensory experience of seeing. I remember the first time I had my first awakening, which was without psychedelics, without substances. Actually, it was in a process that the coaches did it on me. They called it time travel. Okay, it was an emotional regression with some twists in the end. I had an awakening, like I would realize I was very present. I was a different thing than the Sergio guy. Okay, even though not as strong as the episode I told you, it was the first time the light was switched on for me in a way I could recognize, in a way I could see. And I remember I would see things differently. I would see objects or even my hands being more bright and more interesting. I was in Warsaw back then, and I remember I went walking around and I saw the trees in the street, and I could tell the difference, that they were alive compared to the concrete or houses. Like trees had a different presence, a different fabric to them. That I could see to my eyes, exactly. And so I would use that to check, or I would check my hands, for example. I would see, okay, how am I perceiving my hands today? Do they look like dull and as they were before, or can I see how bright and infinite and cool they are? Okay, so this sight would go up and down, let's say, seeing this light, this beauty around me. And I realized that the more practice I would do, the more every day I would get in touch with this beauty without having to take anything. It's like it increases by 0.1% every single day. And that's how I know that I'm actually going somewhere with the practice. Okay, that's one way. Another way is to check what kind of things happen in your life. So you can have the most amazing enlightenment experiences, so on and so forth. But then, if you're very unlucky with everything that happens, you are not having a pleasant life experience. I don't know, your wife is cheating on you, okay, or your children hate you, or you work a job you don't like, okay. That means you're not truly aligned with your being. That means you haven't really learned the things you need to learn. You still have things to look into. Okay. Instead, more pleasant and flowing, frictionless is your life experience. The more truly healed you are, the more in touch with your being you really are.
The less karmic debt you are carrying with you.
In a sense as well. Yes.
Yeah. That's why I think we already talked about this one. Really, I love this sentence. The universe is perfectly set up for everybody to become enlightened, because you always run into your own problems. Yes. And if we can educate ourselves from projecting them onto others, then we still have the space to sort of take our lessons. I'm not saying take abuse from other people. You can leave other people where they are if they're harmful for your life, or draw healthy boundaries. But the fact that you were vulnerable or became vulnerable to something outside is it's an unresolved area in your life, so to say.
Exactly, which should go together with wanting to raise your consciousness. Because I see so many people, either they are stuck in a personal development bubble where they want to achieve and get things done and do stuff, but they lose on the connection with the being. And then there are people.
The spiritual layer is missing. They do meditation for efficiency and productivity. And my own organizational psychology professor, he says sentences about what meditation is. Meditation is to realize what you really want. Yeah, maybe not. Maybe it's transcending.
Depends on how you mean it.
Yeah.
Depends on how you
So
mean it.
it's, as you say, it's all a bubble of this high performance. Give me some more marathons and some more companies to run, and then I can calm my ego down, but only as long as someone comes along and threatens it.
Exactly.
And then I'm back to zero, and I need another company and another marathon and another green drink and whatever. But it's not the final destination. And many people get
Absolutely.
lost in this, definitely.
Totally. And at the same time, a lot of people also reject daily life, practical life, and they go like, oh no, I'm going to be enlightened. So I'm not going to get a job. I'm not going to get a wife. I'm not going to live a life on my purpose, whatever. And they use meditation or psychedelics or whatever kind of spirituality as an escape. Okay, they just want to go up. They don't want to go horizontally, you know?
They have a different, my experience is different, because like when like, for instance, after yoga teacher trainings, like my teacher always had to answer the questions like, yeah, but Swami, when I'm going back home, now I've done this direction of yoga, and what is my next? And then if there's not such a studio in what is the best yoga place I can go in my hometown? And he always said like, the one next around the corner, the one that is closest to you, because it doesn't matter if you go to hip, belly, butt yoga, or of course it does, but it is your path. It is on the way, and you cannot meditate. I mean, probably you can meditate about your to-do lists for some decades or something, but I still would argue that the meditation has the effect of calming the mental activities, and therefore you gain more insight or more perception of this higher layers. And so it is progress. It can be a very slow progress with the wrong goals or guidance, but I don't think it is in vain. Like you can slow your development, but if you're caught in a complete delusional outside world or game that we're all playing in the material world, then any drop of meditation is a chance to raise your consciousness above what you are surrounded by.
Yeah, of course, yes. And we can also say at the same time that all the companies you run and all the things you do as a achiever, they're also not in vain, because also from there you learn and your consciousness raises, maybe to the point where you will start meditating properly. So in each direction, everything you do is never in vain. And everything you do is never in vain. I have the pet theory that if you're humble enough, you can take the best from both directions and integrate them without excluding them. Excluding one of the two is an ego defense mechanism, in my opinion. And it makes a lot of sense to prioritize maybe the meditation over the work or vice versa, yet never forgetting that both of them are very important for your development. And that's a mistake I see many people doing, like forgetting about one of the two, or not considering it, or even shaming it, or like hiding it under the carpet.
I think maybe the world is now at a stage where we acknowledge both worlds or both ways or possibilities from the dimensions which they offer, just because they are there. It's like it is given. It is given. It is there. It is a gift in a way too. And neglecting broad areas which are just there always leaves me with a question mark. Like, why is it there then if we don't need it?
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course, yes. Of course. I would also like to add that I get the sense that in this period of time, we are ready We are ready to have this integration process. We are ready to experience spirituality in a practical way and also bring some higher understanding in the way we live our daily life. And it wasn't possible before. We didn't have the tools. We weren't just ready. Like our human consciousness was not ready for that also.
The worldly and the sacred were pretty much separated, or you make a donation and then you pay yourself out from
hell or whatever, from purgatory,
endeavors or whatever. So how does it look today? Are you juggling with these two ways? How do they sort of fructify each other? Like, how does it feel for you in your life?
So there is this beautiful saying. It comes from Arabic. I think it's Sufi. I don't remember though. And it says, "Take care of God first, and then God will take care of everything else." And so, since I was a bit lazy, we can say, I was like, okay, so now I can only do the letting go process. I'm taking care of God, and everything else will sort itself out, right? It is true and also not. Like there was some avoidance from me from getting down to work and actually doing the things that were truly important for me. But at the same time, like working so much on raising my frequency and on healing myself makes it nowadays much easier to receive the instructions from life that I need, the inspiration they need to do the right things. So the right coaches show up and say, hey, Sergio, this is what you should do with your coaching practices. And like, oh, that's what I've been looking for such a long time. Then I scroll Facebook and I'm like, let me write down to someone, this guy. I write it, oh, Sergio, I was thinking of you. Let's have a call. And everything flows so well. Okay. These sort of experiences are more frequent for me because I have done the meditation. At the same time, my resolve to work properly and to put myself out there in a constructive way increased thanks to the clarity I got from meditation. But also, it's about, the practicalities of getting down to work every single day and doing the things I got to do, which are easier to be done because there is less resistance inside of me. So the two things are very connected, and one doesn't exclude the other. We can say, well, the thing that is said in the book by David Hawkins and other teachers say, even though I haven't yet had a direct experience of it, is that every action, everything that exists arises from consciousness. There is no doer behind it. It's a thing that arises from the field, and then it disappears in the field itself. So even me looking on Facebook for someone to chat with, for a potential client, it's not me doing it, it's the universe being it. Okay, and the quality of the things that happen depend on the level of consciousness, like the frequency that I vibrate at. Okay, so the higher my vibration, the better the things that I end up doing. Yet at the same time, I personally still have the idea that it's also up to me to do the stuff, to show up, and to establish the habit of doing things. So they are very well interconnected. And by the way, working, for example, like the relationship with money and business and so on and so forth, triggers a lot of things inside me, like a lot of insecurities, a lot of fears, a lot of, oh my God, am I enough? Should I ask for more money? Have I asked too much, too little? What am I going to do? I don't know what I'm doing. Oh my God. Which is more material for me to release. This is also why it's so important to show up in daily life, in my opinion, because you get triggered. Like the things that are holding you back, they show up better. If you confront daily life.
The material world is definitely a good playground to collect your triggers, and then you can go home.
And then you do the homework, exactly. And then you come back. Exactly.
And do the homework. This is really beautiful. How would you describe, sort of, as one of my last questions, how did the psychedelics, the usage of them, and it's been rather frequent, how did it influence your now I'm using the word personal development, spiritual, whatever development, and how would what did it add to your life, or who would you be without it? Like,
Well, it had a deeper connection with life, with existence. It added a deeper connection with myself and also showed me the possibility of what can happen. As I said before, it brought me to have adventures I would have never had before. This summer, I've been in Colombia to do ayahuasca. And like that was the main reason why I went there for the first week. There was a retreat of that happening. And then so many other things happened on top of it. I ended up almost not doing ayahuasca for 3 months, even though it was the main idea, because I was doing other things. Like I met a guy who taught me Chinese medicine and chiropractic. So for 2 months, I was in this favela, cracking people's necks and doing, chiropractic on random people, which is an experience I would have never had otherwise. Then I was with shamans, and then I learned many things about plants and how shamans live their life, and about spirits, and about a bunch of other things they were completely out of my reality.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't for me wanting to go do some ayahuasca with the shamans, I would have never learned these things. I would have never got in the situations in which I got, thanks to me wanting to take the psychedelics. So it's like the psychedelics, they don't limit themselves to the sessions you have with them.
Yeah.
They influence everything around your life. Okay, like cooking ayahuasca, for example, is a 4-day long process in which you have to cut it, and then you have to smash it, and then you have to put it in huge cauldrons, and then for 4 days you have to cook it. It's a spiritual practice of its own. The point where it doesn't matter if you drink it in the end. Like just the act of cooking it for such a long time, it already taught you so much. For example, then. So I took ayahuasca more than 100 times by now. And I remember in the beginning, the experience was very different than what it is now. So in the beginning, there were so many powerful insights and realizations and awakenings, even one on top of the other, stacked. Then there was a period in which it was very difficult for me to drink it. I remember I would puke it very often. And that was a period in which my body was sort of readjusting, and I was, like surrendering to the shitty taste of ayahuasca, but also I couldn't. And then there was guilt and shame for not being able to. Then there was a period in which I felt like my body was upgrading. I remember there was a night where I puked very fast. And then I asked the facilitator, this friend of mine, to give me more. And he gave me a lot of ayahuasca, like at 2 a.m., very late. And then I take it. I remember at 4 a.m., I have a puking process in which I feel like I am puking from the bottom of my spine. I feel like the puking instincts come from muscles I didn't know I had, from places in the body I didn't know existed. So it's a physical thing, like the body gets strengthened by it in a way. Then the insights stopped, the visions became much, much less, and now it's a lot of energy work. Like here's the important thing. For me now, psychedelics, what they do is they show me where the stuck pain, the stuck energies are in the body. It's like they highlight it in a way that it's easier for me to then go inside them and release them.
Target them, yeah.
So it's a catalyst in a sense. And I would say for everybody is different, of course. And every single time you take any psychedelic is going to be different. So they also teach you, or they also taught me how to surrender control and be okay with whatever is happening, be okay with following my instinct, okay, not following the rules necessarily or the structure I believe I should be following, even when I'm taking psychedelics. Like, for example, on ayahuasca, what is said usually, you should lay down and stay with your process and eyes closed and process whatever you have to do. But many times I just wanted to stand up and go touch the cat or go around the house and do things. And it always proved to be the smartest thing to do. That's where my real insight was. So in a sense, they help you get the self-permission to be more of yourself. Okay, that's another thing. There have been so many things.
It might sound like a stupid question, but can you describe be more of yourself? Like your impulses more authentically?
Exactly. Like you have a certain impulse, you want to do a certain thing, and maybe you think, oh no, I shouldn't do that because.
So
what if I do it and then the other person judges me, or what if I'm doing the wrong thing?
Less social layering.
Yeah, not just social. Like
your expression.
In this ayahuasca case, it was my perfectionism. For example, it's my, oh no, if I don't stay eyes closed, feeling everything I gotta feel, I'm not getting the gains I'm supposed to get from the session. Or if I puke it immediately, I'm not supposed to get the gain, then I don't want to puke it, I want to hold it back. There have been situations in which I had the intention to drink my puke back. because I didn't want to lose it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I never did it in the end, but I was keen on. I wanted to try at some point. But that was like my perfectionism coming up. Because what if I'm fine, even if I don't do the session tonight? What if I'm fine if I waste the session and then I go talk to someone, I go do something else?
Mm-hmm.
So I can be less harsh on myself, or I can have less presumption over what I should be doing.
Yeah, and what will be happening as a result of it.
Exactly. Because maybe
Mm-hmm.
what I'm supposed to do, like what I really want to do, is completely different than what I think I should do.
Yeah. And how did this work out? Is sort of like my final question. How did it work out in your environments? Because you've been in different places. How was this experience for you of being more of you, or more true, or less filtered by morals, ethics, expectations of different societies and unspoken rules and
my own bullshit, my own filters, my own things? Because here's another thing, like we tend to place on society, on family, on other people, the stuff we carry inside. 90% of the things I released, they were my own things. The very thing I created myself to block myself. It's like, if you think of a judgment towards others, usually we import it from our mother. Okay, like I realized at some point that my mind was judging people in the way my mother would. Okay, but actually that's not properly my mother's voice. That's my interpretation. That's the way I twisted my mother's voice inside of me. This is something every human does. Like we all import our mother inside of us. Each of us does it in a different way. But it was me doing it. Okay, it was
like
my own fear. It was my own mechanisms preventing me from.
Unconscious,
Yeah, exactly. So, but at the same time, of course, I would become I would start doing different things than I was before. So I would come back to my hometown every once in a while, and my friends would be the same as usual, like the same friends I would have for 10 years. And they would tell me, what the fuck is going on with you? Like, why are you saying different things? Why are you doing different things? Okay, there would be resistance from them. There would be resistance from my family as well. So, for example, after I had a bunch of awakenings, I remember I came back home and my eyes looked different. Okay, like I had a different gaze, a different way of looking at things. And my mom and sister, they noticed, and they were scared of that. They were worried of it. And they also saw me doing things and saying things I wouldn't normally do and say, which were actually the real me. Like being the real me is confronting. But for everybody, if you start being the real you, you're going to confront everybody else who isn't. A human being who is not concerned with the usual things other humans are concerned of is scary, is confronting. Okay. So my mother and sister, usually they used to tell me, why aren't you normal? What's going on with you? I wasn't normal before already, but then I overcharged it. Okay. After I had all my experiences. And I always kept doing whatever I was doing. I knew I was doing it right, but I was met in the beginning, especially with a lot of resistance from all around me. Then in the end, I ended up even doing mushrooms with my mother twice. So over a long time and a lot of effort, of propaganda effort from my side of showing her and convincing her it's a fine thing, I actually ended up doing it with her, and it was a very good experience. So if you are on the path of awakening, no, it is very likely you will be met with resistances from outside. You will have to lose something, likely. Okay, not necessarily, but some people will feel threatened by you somehow, even if you don't do anything to threaten them. Okay. Now, in my specific
you cross
case,
the social rules. You cross the limitations.
Exactly.
Which are still
not just the social rules, but you cross the definition they have of what a human being looks like. It's not just about the social rules. It's about the idea they have of what is normal to be. It's a deeper thing even. And you also confront them, because if you are more free-spoken, you're more free-spirited in a sense, somebody who isn't is going to wonder unconsciously, why is this guy?
But it could also be an inspiration. It could also be
absolutely
inspiration. Your freedom projects the freedom, or gives other people also the freedom. So why the confrontational thing?
For some people, I have been, in fact. It depends. it depends. Like some people receive you in a certain way, other people receive you in a different way, and it also depends on how you pose yourself. Now, personally, I tended to have, and I still have, in a sense, a very aggressive personality, we can say. Like when I know something is right and I gotta say, I say it, and I don't care. Okay. So I would exacerbate this sort of disparity because I had also my own attachments and my own bullshit still that would create unnecessary conflict, like on my side. But also, some people will feel threatened and other people will not. It depends. Depends on who you meet. Depends on how ready the person is to see you and to receive you as well. Everybody's different. And you don't want to get attached necessarily to the fact that, oh, I'm inspiring people, therefore I'm cool, or, oh, I am confronting people, therefore I'm doing something wrong. Sometimes being harsh or being unapologetically yourself to the point where somebody else doesn't like it is exactly the thing you gotta do. So even there, it's important to have no expectations on what being an example for others looks like.
I found this point very interesting, that first comes up your own limitations, your own filters, stopping you, numbing you, muting you from your own self-expression, and that these are not the filters of your environment. It makes, in one thing, it makes sense, and that is that others are so preoccupied with their own, how do I live? How do others perceive me? How do I express myself? How do whatever, get what I want, whatever, that they have very rare spare energy left in being hypervigilant on others. But like, how do we build our own limitations if they are not fed? Like, for me, it's always like you are born into a certain soup. Like a fish is swimming in water. He doesn't know that he's swimming in water. Water is his existence. And so all the regulations, the expectations, and all this stuff is the soup in which we are born into. We don't recognize it. It's our limitations, our rules, our little aquarium where we swim around. So that these limitations are not sort of quite congruent with our own, that takes me wonder, honestly. Like, do you have an explanation for this?
Society evolves in such a way that it tries to improve the condition of everybody living inside of it.
Thank God.
If you try to improve it for everybody, it means you stop at a certain average. You find certain common ground for as many people as possible. That's what it means to live in a society. Meaning, you will have to put together people who are very low level of consciousness, killers and rapists and the worst humanity has to offer, and then you also have saints in that, and everybody in the mid ground. You want to have rules that manage to put together all these people. So it's complicated. Okay.
It's the lowest common denominator.
No, I would say the average. Like, we all agree that killing someone is not fine. Okay, you go to jail, rightfully so, right? But also we punish you if you speak the truth about social norms, and like if you start talking bad about marriage in Italy, like you start saying that marriage is not the smartest thing to do if you want to have happy relationships, there's gonna be a backlash from the core of society. Okay, because there is Christian Catholics being very well grounded in our society in Italy, for example, right? In Germany, it's going to be something else. In Germany, maybe you have a lot of politically correct people who get offended if you don't use the pronoun correct.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. If you speak the truth, you're gonna necessarily clash against some of these things, right, that are invented. You want to be smart. Like, you want to recognize that you doing what you want to do doesn't need to create problems with others. You can really do what you want to do, even if the environment is not that conducive. Of course, if you're born in Saudi Arabia, it's different than being born in Germany. Okay. But God helps you nonetheless. You always have the tools, you always will have the space to express the thing that needs to come out of you. The good question you want to ask is, why am I doing what I'm doing? Am I really doing what I would love to do? Or am I not? You want to be brutally honest with yourself first. Like, am I married to the right person? Is my marriage bringing me happiness? Am I working the right job I want to work? How do you know? Well, how do you feel about it? If you think about your job and you feel like disgust coming up, likely that's not the job you're supposed to work. And why are you still there? oh, because I'm afraid, because if I look for another job, I may not gonna find it. What am I gonna do? I am whatever professional. I'm not gonna be able to find something else. Then it's you being afraid. That is the issue, which is fine. Okay, so it is your own things you want to confront. Once you realize you are afraid, you can let go of that fear, you let go of the anger and disgust and so on, you will find the right job for you. Even if the context is not the one that you imagine would be the best one, you're still gonna progress. Like the universe is gonna like put the stairs in front of you, the steps to walk on top, one on top of the other. Okay, but you gotta be honest with yourself. That's the important thing. And if you're honest enough, you can break all the rules. Like, but this has been happening for a very long time. Like, I guess 3,000 years ago, the yogis, or even Siddhartha, right? The story of Siddhartha, the guy was a prince, and then he said, "Hey, listen, you know what? I don't like this prince thing. That's not my thing to do." And then he went being an ashet for I don't know how many years. He rejected everything because he knew that was his truth to do. Okay, that's what you want to do. It's likely you don't need to become a hermit nowadays. Okay. But you will see, as soon as you start recognizing your truth and following it, the things that are congruent with it will show up for you as well.
So to sum it up, like you live in more alignment. Once you're connected either way, and with some substances you speed this probably up. You live in more in your, I don't know if personal is the real, it may be incarnational alignment.
More authentic, we can say.
More authentic, yeah. And more able to deal with the consequences?
As well, like psychedelics help have access to the inner resources we have forgotten, much like meditation does. Like psychedelics are faster and stronger and everything more than normal meditation, but you don't want to abuse them, you don't want to depend on them at the same time. After a while, they punish you, even like they tell you, no, dude, it's enough. Like for now, don't take anything anymore. You gotta do other things for now.
Did you get some, like, because some people get horror trips or whatever? I don't know. I have no experience.
Bad trips, we can say. So the right attitude to have is you want to have the bad trips. I was happy when I had the bad trips because it means that something negative, very bad is coming out. And if you manage to release it, if you manage to go through it, you are gonna have a very nice improvement of your situation. So bad trips are to be cherished. In fact, I am annoyed I don't get bad trips anymore. Because every time there is something slightly negative that comes up, I work it out very fast. So I don't have mountains of shit coming out anymore. Okay? But it can be very satisfying when it happens. One thing I wanted to say, so the way the universe works is actually very simple. You can move towards what is true or not. It's a binary code. It's like 0 and 1. So every single thing you do, you can ask yourself, is it true? Every thought you have, is it true? Every feeling you have, is it true? Yes or no? In the end, the answer is a yes or no. Even to the most complicated question, the most complicated thing, you can chunk it down to yeses and nos, and you can clarify what is true for you more and more and more and more and more and more.
But what truths are you referring to? There's obviously there's 3 truths: mine, yours, and absolute truth. So which truth are you referring to?
If you refine the relative truth enough, eventually you get to the absolute truth. And this is the principle behind self-inquiry. If you ask yourself, who am I? And you are clever enough and aware enough to catch the real answers, eventually the answer is absolute truth.
Yeah.
Eventually. It takes a while. It's not going to happen in a day. Okay? But if you apply this to your everyday life, you ask yourself, am I happy? And the answer is no. That's already progress. And then you can wonder, what would I do? What would I need to do to be happier? Oh, I can do that job. Would that make me happy? No. What about that? Maybe. And then you start doing the new thing, and you notice of that what makes you happy and what doesn't. Maybe you want to paint, but actually it's not the painting itself you like. It's the creative expression of the painting that you like. Maybe it turns out that the way you want to express yourself creatively is by writing, not by painting. And so you become a writer, for example. Okay, so the truth of expressive creation is still there, but the painting intuition you had in the beginning was not the absolute, like the real truth for you. It was just a partial one, but it's good. You move from partial truth to partial truth. You keep clarifying and clarifying. Eventually, the truth will sustain you. There is this beautiful saying, it's a Shaolin saying. It says, if you sustain the truth will sustain you. If you crush the truth will crush you. So asking yourself what is true, I believe, is the most powerful spiritual practice of all.
Yeah.
Asking what is true and living accordingly as much as possible to your truth of the moment.
Because no lie will ever live long enough to survive truth.
Exactly.
This is finite
Exactly.
parts in life, or in untruths, let's say. Very beautiful. Sergio, is there a question I should have posed, or do you want to add something to this?
So life is like is a game, we can say. Like, one of the truths you may find in your spiritual path is that nothing is really real. Okay. At the same time, like with games, if you really want to have fun, you want to play seriously. If we play chess and then out of nowhere I start, oh no, I don't want to play anymore. Nah, you throw things out because you say, oh well, in the end it's just a game. Who cares? It's not gonna be fun.
It's losing it intensity, definitely.
Yeah, exactly. You lose the purpose of playing the game.
Yeah.
So play the game at your best, but remember it's a game. That's what I want to say.
That's so sweet. Thank you very much. I really appreciate your endeavor, and maybe it really has to do with what you sort of touched with your birth experience, where in your cell memory, or I don't know where stored it is, like life is fragile. And basically, let's make the most out of it. And let's try it. It's very adventurous, because like I realize I detect in my psyche, these demons, and I don't know if I really want to challenge them. And how about if I jump out of the window and I think I can fly? I don't know.
It's not even just about jumping out of the window. It's about going in a dull way about doing things. That you can do even just with meditation. You can do meditation because, oh yeah, I gotta do meditation because I'm practicing. But you can be like, I'm gonna get fucking enlightened, okay? I'm gonna fucking do it. That's what I'm gonna do. All right. So I'm gonna meditate my arse off, or I'm gonna follow whatever path I'm following because I'm doing it. Okay, I'm playing to win. I'm going serious about it. I don't fuck around. Okay. That's what I'm saying. You can have that attitude, or you can do like many people do it. They're gonna be, oh yeah, I'm gonna be awakened now. And then they don't really commit.
That's not even it. That's not even it. It's you gotta trust that some parts of your identity remain, which sort of guide you, host you, steward you, whatever, remain alive. And for me, it is like, if I pump like a bucket of drugs in my veins, or whatever it is, chances that I don't lose sight of my goals or of why I'm doing it are maybe narrow. Like, you can be carried away into infinite depths and get lost in it.
Then if you get carried away, let yourself be carried away fully. Like, go till the end of being carried away. Don't get yourself carried away halfway.
Okay.
If you do psychedelics, do them properly. That's another thing I see with people doing psychedelics. They go like, oh yeah, I took mushroom once, so I know what it is and it's fine. No, you have no idea of what mushrooms are. You got to take them 30 times, then we talk again. Okay, like, be serious about it. Or like with meditation, people try meditation 10 minutes and they go like, oh yeah, I tried, but it didn't work for me. No, dude, you didn't try really. You didn't put yourself in it for real. Okay, then maybe you do it and you actually don't like it. It's actually not the thing for you to do. Okay, I respect it, but you have done it.
Like, so since how many years are you experimenting with it?
Well, as I said, I started when I was 17, but I became serious with it in 2000, in the end of 2018.
So 4 years.
Yeah, more or less, yes.
Roundabout.
Almost 5 years.
How long were the breaks in between when you said you had to make a break, or like there was no more reaction or no more effect
But
coming?
with the psychedelics, you mean?
Oh yeah, with the
No, sorry.
Oh,
With the
oh.
psychedelics, I started in 2019, beginning of 2019. The breaks were, well, I am on a break now. I haven't taken, I took ayahuasca like a few days ago only, but the time before was in New Year's Eve, but before that was 6 months before. I had a break during COVID. I had a break. I mean, there can be breaks that last for 3 or 4 months, we can say. Then I go and I take ayahuasca for 4 days in a row. Then I don't take it for 6 months more. Okay, depends. It really depends.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's important to not get stuck on one avenue or one way of doing it, because it would be the same limitation as anything else. It's a
Absolutely.
little bit similar to like how you described how you access meditation according to your needs, like
Yes.
being open to being present.
Yeah, like you don't want to force yourself. Like you don't want to say, oh, now I'm gonna meditate 1 hour a day every day, because you do it for 1 week and then you have an ego backlash and then you forget about it for a month, and so it's not working.
Yeah, that's
do
exactly.
it, do it in a way that works for you. So you start very little, then if you have a period in which you want to do it super hardcore, you do it, and then when it stops, it stops. You go back to do it very little. That's what I did. I don't do 5 hours a day anymore because I don't need. It's not my priority number one now, even though I still do it a lot. Same with psychedelics. There was a period in which I would take ayahuasca. I remember it was the Christmas period of 2019. I think I took like 10 different psychedelics in 20 days, something like this. From Christmas, from like the 23rd to the 5th of January. No, to the 2nd of January, I was high on something almost every day. Okay.
Wow.
It happens. It happens. It was either ayahuasca or San Pedro or bufalvarius or mushrooms or bufalvarius and then ayahuasca in the night and so on and so forth. It happens. Then I didn't do it for a while. That's how it is.
It probably takes a while to adjust yourself in.
Yeah, exactly. You want to listen to the intuition there as well. You want to ask yourself, do I really want to take something today? Yes, I want, but I feel some resistance. Then you should take it. Or no, today I really don't want to. Then you don't take it. You want to be in touch with it. You want to make mistakes as well. Like you want to take it when you're not supposed to, and you want to avoid it when you're supposed to take it. So you learn.
Yeah, and so you become free. Because it's already, again, the projection of the result, and it was wrong and it was right, and and yeah, which then is again like a filter of your expression. The need for trying to make it right is another filter of your actions, of one's actions.
Yes. And in fact, the times in which you may have the best experiences is when you don't expect it.
Yeah, definitely.
Like when you do it because you want to get something out of it, that's when you get the least. So it can be, there are many subtleties to this.
But you would definitely make a good guide, like a steward guiding you through these experiences.
Yes.
Maybe it's a new profession coming up.
Yes, I'm doing it already, actually.
Are you guiding other people? Wow.
Yes.
Yeah. Maybe I gotta come to Italy one time, or wherever you are.
I can come to Germany as well. Let's see.
Yeah, Berlin is
go
a
to
nice
the Netherlands. We can see.
Sergio, thank you so much for sharing this. I highly appreciate your researchers or empirical research drive that you're having. I'm very sure it broadens your experience during your existence here and backward and forward. And thank you for sharing all of this. And I hope it inspired many people for, like, basically the need. It might be meditation, or it might be expanding your mind, is like transcending the mind. It is this inner, unless we are completely, how do you say, like, happy with the limitations we live in, and nobody is that ever, because we outgrow what we have, and there's changes is unavoidable in life. But the the longing to transcend the mind, I think it's a very vital human impulse which propels progress, not only of the individual, but of humanity, of us as a species, and how we are on this planet. So in that sense, I really hope, guys, girls, people, you meditate, you bring peace to the world. And
one thing I would love to say, Yashoda, about this, I would say the longing is not just to transcending the mind, the longing is to end suffering. So I don't care how that's going to happen. If I have to transcend the mind, the body, the soul, whatever I have to transcend, I want to stop suffering. That's what pushes me forward. Okay, I want more love, as much as love as possible, and then as least of everything else as possible in my life. Then, if transcendence is the way, let's do it.
So for me, to end suffering is not my ultimate goal. For me, it's like I wanna, I don't know if see this,
Okay.
or
Yes.
perceive or understand. I want to intrinsically be the knowing of it all. This is, and I find, like, as I said initially, we share like a teacher, and I find this perception of, like, yeah, Buddha said the world is suffering. And in these yogic traditions, we all succumb to that. But I find it a very, very interesting distinction to say, what is there is there. Of course, there's ascetic, monastic lineages and all these in the past couple of thousand years. But like, to really say the world is what it is, it's there. There is suffering, there is happiness. Without happiness, probably no suffering. Without suffering, probably not such an exalted sense of happiness. So, and it's in different times, in different peoples or living beings, existences, life, and it is there. And as long as, and this is a contradiction to the Vedas or to the yogic view, as long as I keep my empathy checked, and I don't experience the suffering of every entity on this planet as my own, the world is not suffering. The world is a mixture of all kinds of things. And I find this a very, very liberating thought model or perception, or however you want to call it, because it is, with my own research, I'm at a point where I think empathy is a great thing, but we're living in times where there's a lot of fake empathy.
Yeah, of course.
And in that sense, it's more a stigma. It's a stigma. It's a sign of an old wound, of a traumatic.
Of course, yeah, of course.
Experience.
Empathy can be a survival mechanism. Like, you have to become empathic because you have to realize when your father is angry, for example, so you can protect yourself.
Exactly, and then we all the danger is quite high to sell this image of yourself because it's societally well accepted. And then to go under this flag and take all the suffering from it. But I don't know if this is the final conclusion of looking at the world. I doubt it. Even so, it means doubting Buddha. Like, I like this avenue of thinking. To really, I mean, it's also, it's in the Bhagavad Gita. There's like one sentence, and it says, like, the wise neither grieve for the living nor the dead. Because the wise know that the life is sort of like it's a set of identities put above you, above existence, then in the shape of in the shape or form of whatever this incarnation tells you it's you. It's now Sergio, it's male, it lives in Italy, and it does this or that, and it's a limitation at the end. Like, you're not, as the yogis say, you don't identify with the wave. Like, or if you identify with the wave in the ocean, you are coming into existence, you're peaking, and you're going out of existence. If you identify with water or with the ocean per se, you are an eternal, you are of eternal existence. Like, so yeah, we're touching another topic. Maybe
we could talk for one more hour.
I'm just thinking maybe we'll have another talk. So I want to give you the final last
question
word.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this thing about limitation and being infinite, it's the same as playing the game of chess, for example. Like playing every game we play as humans is a limitation. Like if we play chess, we are limited to move the pieces only in certain ways. If I start moving the piece in different ways, then we are not playing anymore.
Chess.
Right?
Yeah.
So once again, you want to play the game at best while knowing in the background that it is a game. I believe that is the highest level of realization you can have. You know you are the guy moving the pieces. Okay, actually you are the room in which there is the guy moving the pieces. But in moving the pieces, you do it as if moving the pieces is the most important thing that there is.
It is like this Jesus quote: "Be in the world, but not of the world."
Yeah.
Like move around, but don't be of the material, the world.
Yes. Which is something I believe you have. Like, this is something that arises once you have direct experience of this. I personally am not there yet. So I know it's a thing. Like I know Jesus and Buddha say certain things, and I take it as an inspiration. Like I know certain humans manage to have that level of consciousness. I am not there yet. Like right now, I am experiencing Sergio talking to you, for example.
I would have assumed that through the substances, you would have had
many times, but
you just
one
can't
thing is
keep
to
them.
see it once, and one thing is to live it daily. Here is something, it's super important. I say it to my clients as well. The good reference point you want to have is your present direct experience. So I don't care if yesterday you were immersed in God's glory or in infinite love. If today you're not experiencing it right now as you watch the video, then it's like you don't have it. It's not real. The only real thing is what you experience right here and right now. Otherwise, you get stuck in the past, or you think you are more ahead than you actually are.
No, for me, it's always been like sort of like the carrot in front of my nose.
Yeah, exactly. That is the wise way to do it. So you know you can get there.
It exists. I've seen it. I've experienced it.
Exactly.
But
it
was not irreversible.
Exactly. But what some people do is they talk about it as if they have it always, as if they're eating the carrot. No, you only talk about the carrot that they're eating, not the one you're following. Some people do.
That's called the first spiritual backfall. You get delusional because you have the first glimpse of another plane or dimension of existence, and you get completely drawn away from this, and then the hard work starts after that.
Yes, and that's how it was with me with the psychedelics as well. Like some things have been permanent. Like after I had all those awakenings I told you, my perception changed. Like the visual of life, the senses I had, the sort of intuitions, many things changed permanently after the experiences I had. But it's like I was here before, then with the psychedelics I got here, and then I got down here. So my baseline was here, but not here. So every day
but that is the progress, because even if the baseline goes down, like as they say, a mind once expanded beyond its dimensions can never shrink back to before the experience.
Yeah, of course.
So it is a part, it is within you, it is a vision of you, it is an experience of you, it is a proof. It is the most direct proof you can have.
Exactly. Of course, you're never gonna forget it. You're never gonna forget it. I remember when I had my awakening that I call awakening, like awakening from the dream of being Sergio. I remember I sent myself a voice note promising to myself I would never forget that. And then I forgot. I forgot. But it's part of the game, like that's how it is. I still remember it, I can remember it, yet I don't have it in front of me all the time, of course. And this is how it is.
So we all succumb to habit, and the habitual thing is it's really hard to step out of it. The older you get, maybe more, I don't know, you know more, but at the same time, you had more time to hone in your habitual ways of being, thinking, perceiving, or whatever, and to cross it. It's definitely, I mean, for me, life as I can see it has been not, I don't know if exciting or satisfying. I think we share this as a species,
Yeah.
species that there is this what is this one song, constant craving, or it can be a longing, or like, you know, you're not there and brimming of happiness or joy, and this is the moments, and the fact that this motor within us exists. It is also like an intentional thing to guide us to new horizons where we wouldn't go if we wouldn't have this longing. And this is what the world, the spiritual world, can offer, and what is within, how do you say, mind transcending, and the intention on that's maybe also a very important point to add to this talk. The intention in which you take any mind-altering substances is of high importance, and the big difference is, am I taking stuff to escape where I am right now? So sort of, is my intention, am I labeling this as numbing, or am I exploring and wanting to know and stretching out into new fields and making like an experience which is the opposite of numbing, which is sort of perception enlargement or enhancement, probably not, but like widening, broadening, whatever. So, Sergio, I'm going with you in circles. Maybe we have a second talk. People who, if you've been watching this for until the end, until here, please drop us a note. What would be interesting for you in the talk with Sergio? What else you want to know and could be helpful for your experiences? That would be like a real nice thing. And having said that, thanks so much for sharing.
Thank you.
I really like your adventurous, fearless spirit, and hopefully see you again soon here in this format. So, Sergio,
see you soon. Thank you very much.
And goodbye to everybody else. Hari Om,
Bye.
Tat Sat.